Okay, hi, I'm Simon and this is...
Laura?
Okay, so we're going to talk about now how to prepare for a CBT. So just imagine you've got it in your mind, you want to do a CBT, or you've already booked your CBT and it's coming up in, say, 3 or 4 days or maybe a week's time.
Yeah.
So let's go through a few things that would really give you a good preparation as a learner rider who was just embarking on going to do your CBT. Really excited, you're really up for it, but what do they need to do to get the best out of the day?
Okay, so hopefully this is a skill that you already hold, because it's going to take more than 3 or 4 days for you to get this skill and have this skill to take with you to the CBT, and that is, can you ride a push bike, a bicycle, proficiently? And what I mean by that is we get a lot of people that might be quite comfortable riding a bicycle in a straight line along the canal towpaths as an example, but do you feel competent to steer and go round in a circle, maybe some figure of eights, before you progress to do your CBT? And the reason we want you, and we emphasise this loads through all of our literature and marketing material, is because it is the closest thing you're going to get to a motorcycle being on 2 wheels that requires balance. And balance isn't a skill that we have time to teach you during your CBT. It's a skill that you must already obtain. So
what makes me laugh?
Go on.
When I say to someone, can you ride a bike? And they go, yeah. Say, well, you can ride a push bike? Yeah. And they might be like 45.
Yeah.
Say, well, when was the last time you rode?
Yeah.
When I was 4. Like, have you been on one since?
They call it bikeability now, don't they? But years ago it was cycling proficiency. So they did that back when they were
4 or 5 or 6.
I think they're probably sort of between the ages of
8
like
or 9,
11, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't ridden a bicycle for years, but you know you can ride a bicycle, then we recommend that you go and practice, because let me tell you, when you get on that motorbike and you get advised to steer round some cones to change direction, and you are holding on too tight because you feel really uncomfortable on 2 wheels, you're not going to be able to do it.
Oh, let me just say, when we say learn to ride a push bike, what we're not saying is go and do enough cycling so you can do the Tour de France.
No.
or you get really fit. It's small amounts of time on a bike, riding around, and I always say to people, go and ride on the footpath, because there's lots of turns on footpaths and you're going around houses and dodging pedestrians and stuff. So it's about learning a control and being in control, balancing, rather than trying to go fast in a straight line.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like say down the cut.
Yes.
The cut is the canal, by the way, if you come from Birmingham. So while we're talking about being able to ride and balance, I think it's important to be able to see, and we've had a lot of people over the years, they've come in to do a CBT and they can't see a number plate clearly at 20 or 20.5 metres. So if you haven't had an eyesight test, then go and have one before you go and do your CBT. Or walk out 20 metres and then see if you can read a number plate, because that's part of the process. Yeah. And they do reckon that there's like 1 in 7 on the road who would not pass an eyesight test. So that's amazing, isn't it? And it's easy to ride or to have that ability to see deteriorate slowly over a long period of time. You just don't realise. So if you haven't had an eyesight check, either pace out 20 metres and have a look, or go and see an optician and see how you're getting on.
Yeah. Another great tip would be when you come in on the morning of your CBT. It sounds like a really simple one, but to be well rested. A lot of people are apprehensive about doing their CBT. It's the fear of the unknown. But if you turn up and you haven't had much sleep, obviously we're not going to get the best out of you. You're not going to get the best out of the day either. And if you're a shift worker and you've just finished your night shift, no sleep, and you come straight in to do your CBT, and we have had people do that, then, for me, you're just handing over a load of money that you're not going to gain anything from.
Especially if you're tired and your brain's not working.
No.
And a 12-hour shift.
Exactly. So the last thing you want to do after a 12-hour shift is then learn how to ride a motorbike. It would be like trying to learn another language, in my opinion. So if you can try and get a good night's sleep, remember there's no point in stressing about what might happen. Cross that bridge when you get to it, and the more fresh and rested you are, I think the more enjoyable the day will become.
You said something then as well, Laura, and that was, if you're stressed out or you're anxious about it, there are things that people can do if they're anxious about it, because they don't know anything about riding a bike.
Yeah.
They could go on YouTube, couldn't they, and have a look. So use an online platform, and I'm not trying to sell this to you, but Motorcycle Riders Hub is an online platform, a professional education platform that's got everything on there that you might need, and it's professional education, and it takes you all the way through the CBT from start to finish. It tells you how to use the bike on the car park in the training environment, and also on the road, and how to deal with negotiate junctions and roundabouts, and how to deal with other traffic. So you can do some home study before you turn up. That'll get rid of some of that anxiety, and not really get rid of the anxiety, but it'll also help you to understand what might be coming next, so that what you're receiving as the education isn't brand new for the first time and kind of overwhelming or an overload, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. On top of that, it sounds again like another really simple request, but bringing in some drinks and some food to eat at lunchtime. We get a lot of people
some breakfast as well.
Have some breakfast. We get a lot of people who don't eat lunch, don't eat breakfast, don't eat lunch. They go all day without eating. But learning to ride a motorbike is quite a physical task. You might find, for example, when you're doing slow control, you get hot and sweaty because it's quite nerve-wracking. You're trying to do it correctly. You've got loads of layers on, especially in the summer. So you want to be able to stay well hydrated. And having a break, I mean, in our facilities, which we're in at the moment, we've got proper classroom facilities with air conditioning for the summer and heat for the winter. And we allow you some time to eat your lunch away from that training environment so that you get some downtime, which is so important during your training.
Yeah, and when you said about drinking and having something to eat, your brain needs food as well to think about what you're doing, and it can be an overload, and you're using your brain in a way that you probably don't need to when you're at work.
Yes.
So if you worked in an office, and there's an example, and you were working on a computer all day, you might take breaks away.
Yeah.
Well, that's important in the biking.
Yeah.
But because you're doing a new skill, you're going to be concentrating a lot.
Yeah.
And if you're concentrating, then your brain needs some food.
You also get really tired. The thing that I hear from most students when they're in the early stages of training is that it's exhausting because they're using so many different skills all at the same time. Yeah. And so I think some replenishment with your energy levels is really going to help.
Well, we provide tea and coffee, and we've got cold water.
But,
well.
Tea and coffee is no substitute to a cheese and ham sarnie and a chocolate bar, which would be my preference.
Yeah, absolutely. but you do need to take on the fluids in the drink, and that keeps you hydrated and able to learn. Yeah. Don't come in with like a 5-course meal because in the afternoon you need some blood in the brain so you can actually think. You don't want the blood in your stomach, digesting all that 5-course meal.
But you do need something.
Yeah, absolutely. I always think as well, Laura, that when people are learning to ride, they should think about their comfort.
Yeah.
And if it's hammering down with rain and they've got soaking wet in the morning, and then they finish at lunchtime, they're sat in their wet trousers or their wet pants and they're wet, everything's soaked through to the skin. There's nothing worse than sitting there uncomfortable and then getting on the bike in the afternoon and trying to get your brain in gear to concentrate. Yeah. So I think a full set of change of clothing is important. Socks, pants, underwear, everything, so that you can sit in comfort and then get yourself back to a comfortable state.
And it doesn't really matter, I think, about the temperature outside. It might not be that cold, but if it's been raining and your clothes are wet, I can almost guarantee that the cold will set in and you'll feel it in your bones, and you can't then get your body warm because you've sat in
Yeah, you're not ready for the next bit then, are you? So a full change of clothing, I think, is mega important. And while we're talking about clothing, something that we don't do at our training school anymore, and this is from COVID, we don't supply any clothing that's next to the skin. So gloves, helmet, and jackets. We don't supply those. We never supplied boots or trousers anyway, because you can wear docks or you can wear a walking boots and maybe a pair of jeans. That's probably the minimum that I'd say.
Yeah.
But I don't supply that stuff anymore because hygienically it's not good. Because the hygiene is, if I've got a helmet on and 1,000 people have worn it before, it's not going to be a nice environment. If I've got gloves that are 2 years old and they've been worn by 1,000 people
all summer, over 4 summers,
yeah,
they might be a bit fragrant.
And then imagine, wearing a jacket someone's been wearing all summer and it's early autumn, and the training school aren't that good at cleaning their kit. Would you really want to be wearing that clothing?
Yeah.
Personally, the answer is no.
Yeah.
And if I want to ride a bike, I want to buy my own clothing anyway.
Yes.
So hygienic, good fit as well.
Yeah,
that's another thing.
So a lot of riders that come in, historically when we have provided helmets, jackets and gloves, they're obviously across the board average. So if you're an average sized man, then you will probably manage okay with the gloves, helmet and jacket that the school provides. If you are extra large, tall, big,
or extra large, which is what I had.
Yeah, or tiny, and you're only sort of 5 foot, and you've got small hands, you're obviously not going to manage okay with standard gloves, because you're going to need to get gloves that fit well. If you've got this much material at the end of your glove, it's going to get in the way of your gear changing with your clutch control, it's going to get in the way of your throttle, it's going to get in the way of your brakes. So for me, if you're small or big and you're not average, then you're much better off investing in some gloves, a nice helmet that's yours, that fits your head and your head only.
Yeah, but go to a shop and get them fitted properly. Don't buy them off the internet.
No,
not knowing what you're buying. There was that guy, I don't know if you remember him, he was a big guy and a massive head, and he bought a helmet and it still didn't fit him, so he took the cheek pads out so it would fit. And it's like, what you've got to do is be fitted in a shop, properly fitted, so that you've got the right gear. Because once you take the helmet out of the box, take all the brand new bits off and,
you can't send it back, I know.
And put it on your head, that's it. You can't be sending that back.
Yes.
And if it's too tight after you've had it on for 10 minutes, you want it off your head, don't you?
And
pressure points.
It's an investment piece, so you shouldn't really just buy the first one that you see because it fits your budget or you like the colour. So fit is a big one when it comes to helmets. I think that's most important. So if you want a nice pair of gloves that only you has worn, then bring those. And a jacket that only you have worn as well. And obviously, if you aren't average, then there's a good chance you're going to need to invest in that piece. But once you pass your test, you'll need it anyway. And then the helmet is, of course, the most important piece, really.
Yeah, well, I just want to say there as well, there's different clothing for different types of the year or different months in the year. So you don't want to be wearing winter clothing in the middle of August. No. And then you don't want to wear your summer clothing in the middle of January.
Yes, I see that quite
because
a lot.
it's really, really going to be uncomfortable and it's not going to be good for learning and the learning environment that you're in. Yeah. Talking of the learning environment, the instructor might be really up for it, but it's an attitude towards learning that I want to talk about next.
Good one.
Because as a trainer, we have to be enthused and try and really impart our knowledge in an educational way, but also in a fun way as well. Because a lot of people, when they're having fun, learn a lot quicker. So I think the attitude towards learning is important, and that's probably in a few ways. Don't turn up thinking you know it all, because even if you've had a go on a motorbike, there's going to be skills that you don't know, and I always think the DIY approach of learning is quite weak, and that DIY approach is oh, it's easy, just have a go and you'll be all right. And once you've had a go on an off-road bit on your mate's bike, you turn up and you think you know it all. You know, don't have that attitude when you turn up. And the other thing that you've seen a lot is when, you know, somebody's been bought a birthday present or Christmas present as, you know, as a surprise. Surprise! Yeah. Present for a motorbike license, and it's like, oh, and you can see the colour draining out of someone's face.
Because it's something that learning to ride a motorbike is not easy, and it's something that you've got to really want in order to achieve it. And obviously, if you've been bought it as a present, the problem is that you might not really want it. Your partner might really want you to want it, but if you don't want it, then it's going to be a tall order to achieve. And so, and a part of my business is I get a lot of husbands, partners, boyfriends who contact me because, especially over the Christmas period, because they want to buy vouchers or training for their loved ones, and I don't let them do it. And the reason I don't let them do it is because I want to have a chat with their wife, partner, friend, whoever, to ensure that it is something that they do really want before they pay that money for their taster or their CBT.
Yeah, because it could be a waste of money, couldn't it? If they really don't want to learn to ride and they turn off and sit on the bike and move forward by a foot and then go, I don't want to be here, well, that's just a waste of money. Yeah. And that could be spent on some nice perfume or something. You know, if it was a wife or a girlfriend. Yeah. Or if it's the other way around, the husband, buy them some aftershave. They might not want to ride a bike. So find out first if they want to ride. Yeah. Because that attitude of wanting to learn and they've got a desire to learn, it's got to be there, because you're not just going to turn up and have a go just because it's a present and do well, unless you want to do it. Yes. Finally, though, I want to talk about being fit to be on a bike. And we've had people in the past who have turned up and have smelled of alcohol, and I've turned somebody away who told me they'd smoked the night before, smoked some weed. Being fit to ride a motorbike is important. If you are on the public road in your own car and you lost your licence because you was over the drink driving limit, or you've been on drugs, you're in charge of a vehicle, but that's your vehicle and you've made that choice to do that. Don't turn up at a training school and expect, if you smell of alcohol because you've been out till 3 o'clock in the morning, and expect the instructor to allow you to be riding around while you smell of alcohol. Yeah. And and if you are going to be on a bike, then certainly don't go out and having a spliff or a few drugs.
I'm not laughing at that, but
the night before.
Do you remember that young lad? I'd got him in for dash training, and his mom drove him into RMT, and he buzzed the front door. So I went down to the front door to let him in, and he said, very sheepishly, he was really apologetic, but he'd had an absolute skinful the night before, and his mom drove him down,
made him come in
to tell us that he wasn't going to be doing his training because he was way over the limit, and she was absolutely furious with him, as you would be, because he'd paid a lot of money for that training day. Yeah. So yeah, it's just not worth it.
And a lot of training schools will give some pre-course information. Yeah. So I think it's important, if you've got a training school, a good training school where you've gone and spent some money and they've sent you that pre-course information, then at least read it and understand what they've got to say to you for booking on that course.
Give yourself the best possible chance before you start, is my advice. Yeah. Just on top of that, though, we haven't talked about driving licences.
Okay.
And so obviously you do need to bring your driving licence with you on your CBT, but it needs to be in date. So when you book your CBT, or if you're planning to book it, just have a look at when that photo card licence expires.
Well, there's 2 expiries, isn't there? There's one for the licence category on the back, and there's one on the front that's valid because that's the same as your picture, like your passport. Yes. And all I want to make sure is that you don't look like you're 14 when you're 60. When you're 60, doing your CBT, because it's not a true likeness.
No. And also another good one is that if you're planning to do your full motorcycle licence and you've changed address, and you don't have access to that address, you really need to make sure that you've got an up-to-date licence as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I suppose to cap up what we're saying there is there's a lot of things that you can do before a CBT so that you are properly prepared and ready. And my brother says something really kind of funny. He says, my name is Mark Hayes. I know I'm Simon Hayes. He says, my name is Mark Hayes. I'm not Merlin the Magician. This is a biro. It's not a magic wand. Okay, and basically what he means by that is you're not going to turn up on the day and the instructor's just going to suddenly do everything for you and you're going to just be a rider at the end of a 6-hour period.
Yeah.
You know, education is
It's
two-way.
Yeah.
And the instructor's got stuff to impart, you've got stuff to absorb and to maintain and think about and then put into practice what you're doing.
Yeah.
So look, if you booked your CBT, go and have a great time, but know that there's some self-study and some stuff that you could do first to make yourself have a great day when you turn up.